Yeah, I've got the heating on, so I don't know if anyone else.
Warm in Bristol.
Warm in Bristol, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
It's definitely temperature's dropped in Brighton a little bit, so I think it's bright enough where I am. But yes, we'll start in standing. We're just going to obviously do some things to get moving. Yes, do make sure you're warm enough. So I think first of all, just let yourselves arrive in standing, and you could look at your feet, sort of look distance apart, and then you can, if you feel comfortable with closing your eyes, close your eyes and see if you can feel yourself in standing for a moment. So it could be helpful to do a little bit of swaying from side to side, because that helps us to feel ourselves, particularly to feel our feet on the floor. And also it's possible in all these different positions to be able to feel our body and to be able to feel our breath. And maybe it's more familiar to do that in lying down, but we can also do it in standing. So just maybe take one more moment to see if you can feel your breath coming in and your breath leaving. I'm just going to, actually, I haven't muted people yet. Very nice. And then what we're going to do is just start to do this sort of loose, easy swinging twist where you're slapping your arms onto the sides of your body, letting your whole body come along, and using this to feel, how are you feeling today? Are there sort of any tight places around your shoulders, around your upper back? Who's that joining us? I think it might be Sarah. Sarah, is that you? Yes, good. So a couple more times swinging your arms. Hi, Sarah. Got everyone muted. So we're all looking out for Sarah's new kitten in the background, hopefully. It's really very exciting. Okay, so let that go and just come back to settling down. And we're going to do a couple of side lengthening, side sort of stretching, side reaching movements. So what we're going to do first of all is just with one arm. So take one arm up. I've taken the right arm up, but it doesn't matter which. And a few times you're going to reach up into that arm, shift your weight onto that right leg. So it might be that your left heel, or whichever leg it is, your heel comes up in the other leg. And then just release and soften. And so perhaps 3 times we're going to reach up through that one side, let the other side be relaxed, and then come all the way down. And then the same on the other side. So we'll reach the arm up, we'll reach up, we'll shift our weight into that side. Maybe the other heel comes up, and then just soften it all. You can even bring the arm all the way down. And do this a couple more times. So reaching up through that one side, shifting your weight, coming back. And then again. I'm very bad at counting. I think that's 3 times. And then release your arms. And we're going to see how it feels to go into a forward bend. So you might want to be a little bit tentative with this, bending your knees, resting your elbows on your thighs, seeing how your lower back feels. And if it feels fine, then you can carry on releasing your arms to the floor. If you feel that your back needs that bit of support, then that's it. Stay with your elbows resting on your thighs. And we're going to, of course, move in and out of these forward bends. So little by little, our body will start to undo. So in your forward bend, let a breath come in. Maybe a big exhalation, let your head hang. Let another breath come in, and then as you exhale, roll back up into standing or walk your hands up the front of your thighs, just again, depending how your back is feeling. Mine was feeling a little bit creaky today. And in this time, we're going to come back to these side lengthening movements, but with both arms up and reaching into one arm and then the other. So our weight can shift into the right leg, into the left leg. I'm not quite sure if you can see my hands here. I'm in the process of getting a bigger screen. You can then catch one wrist. That's it. So catch one hand around the wrist of the other arm and sort of draw your arm up and over. That's it. And then do the other side. So catch your other hand around the other wrist and draw yourself up and over. Good. Good. And then release your arm and again come back down into a forward bend. So again, it might be that halfway house where you're bending your knees, resting your elbows on your thighs, giving your back a bit of support. It might be that you feel that going all the way down. It might be, I was just thinking actually, it's quite nice to bend your knees a lot so your chest comes close to your thighs. So that's another way to, if you release your arms, to support your lower back a bit more by bending your knees a lot. Good, and have a couple of breaths down there before you roll up. I'm just going to turn my heating down. And then let a breath come in as you exhale, rolling back up into standing. And have a little bit of a shake out. So what we're going to do today to start with is a little bit of walking and then taking that into some different movements. So you're going to come towards the back of your mat. And we're going to just do some simple walking to start with and then build it up from there. Slow walking. So first of all, you're going to walk, not looking at the ground, looking straight ahead. Walk slowly up your mat, trying to feel each footprint on the floor. So we're trying to drop down into our feet and then walk backwards to back to where you started. So now you can't really look where you're going and you're really feeling your feet on the floor. And do that once more. So again, walk up your mat again, just trying to drop your attention down into your feet. And then one more time back to the beginning of your mat. And then we'll do the same thing with our eyes closed, if that feels okay for you. And you might need to slow it down. We'll just go once up the mat and once back. So with your eyes closed, how does it feel to walk up your mat? And so cutting off that sense, maybe our awareness of our feet and their feeling on the ground becomes a bit more present. We also probably have to slow down a bit to feel through our feet when we reach the end of the mat. And then the same thing, walk backwards, back to where you started with your eyes closed. And so, yeah, I'm just looking down and I can see I've veered off my mat, off to one side. So end up back at the back of your mat in our original starting point. And we're now going to walk with our right foot. We're going to step 1, 2, 3 on your mat. And then I want you to shift your weight into your right foot and let your left leg swing a little. And you can swing it, you can play around with swinging it by bending your knee, so it's a bit like you're kicking. And you can also do it with keeping your legs straight. So you're not expecting to do a huge movement. What we're really thinking about is how can we shift our weight onto our right leg? So it's possible to let that left leg swing. So think about that, you are shifting your weight sideways to the right a bit. Okay? Now, to do the other foot, we could just turn around where we are on the mat and walk the other way up the mat, or you could go back to the start of your mat. So this time with the left foot, 1, 2, 3, the same thing. So shifting your weight onto your left foot and then swinging the right leg. And ideally what we're trying to find is how can we keep this right leg long, but you could also do a bit of bending the knee and it feels a bit more kicky. So it's just trying to find this feeling. Can the leg hang from the pelvis? Good. Okay. Now let's go one stage further with this. So again, you can turn around on your mat. Just have a stretch of your mat in front of you. Stepping forwards with your right foot again. 1, 2, 3. Shifting your weight onto your right foot. So your left leg's just hanging. Can you bring your arms up? So can you be in a place where your weight's on your right leg, your left leg's hanging, and your arms are up? And you could just try ever so slightly if you wanted to let that left leg tip back and let yourself tip forwards. It could just be a small movement for now. Good. If you feel drawn to doing a bigger movement, that's absolutely fine. Remember, it's early on. Yes, and then we'll do the same thing on the other side. We're going to come back to all these things after we've done some other stuff. So last time, stretch of the mat in front of you, left foot steps forwards, 1, 2, 3. Can we shift the weight into the right leg, let the left leg hang and swing? This time we're not letting the knee bend, yeah? We're trying to keep the right leg, sorry, the hanging leg long and straight. And then maybe there's a little bit of tipping forwards, just a little bit. Little taste of that. And then let yourselves roll down into a forward bend again. So see how your forward bend feels. Now, do you want to rest your elbows on your thighs? Exhale, let your head go. Do you want to bend your knees and let your chest come close to your thighs? Yeah. What do you want to do when you're in a forward bend? What feels good at this point in your body? And in your own time, you can have another cycle of breath there, and then you can roll back up again. So let a breath come in as you exhale, rolling back up. You can have a little shake out. Now, what we're going to do is just settle in standing, and then we're just going to think about if we have a hand on our pelvis. What's it like to let our weight come forwards towards the fronts of our feet a bit more and to start to look up a little bit? So the pelvis is coming forwards. We're looking up. That's it. And you can just, again, quite tentatively, what's it like to take an arm up? You try the other arm. So the pelvis comes forwards, the weight's rocking forwards into the balls of the feet. Some of you might find you want to bend your knees to drop your tailbone a little bit. And it could be both arms up. So just a little standing back arch, but keeping it quite easy, yeah? And then we'll go back down into a forward bend again. So maybe just do one more little thing that you'd like to do in terms of the pelvis coming forwards, 1 or 2 arms up, and then all the way back down into a forward bend. Good. And if at any point when you come into these forward bends you feel that you want to go on into a squat, you can do. Depends how that forward bend feels, depends what would be good for your lower back. So wherever you are in your forward bend or even in a squat, just another breath or so, and then rolling back up into standing. Okay, just have a little shake out now. We're going to come back to that movement in a moment, or a variation on it. But what I'd like you to do from your feet being side to side is to step 1 foot forwards. You could step the right foot forwards. You don't have to, but then you won't have to think about lefts and rights. And then do this sort of walking where we're rocking our weight into the front foot, into the back foot. So we come onto the ball of the back foot, onto the heel of the front foot. And we're just thinking about settling. So eventually from this rocking, we stop rocking, we settle our feet down. So you still want to have your hip width distance, you know, or a bit of distance side to side, so you don't feel you're on a tightrope. And then we're just going to see, can we stay very steady below the waist, feel stable, and can we swing our arms a little bit? So this feeling that we're moving in the upper body. So our knees are pretty straight here, but not locked. We're feeling the pelvis and the legs and the feet are steady. The upper body can move. That's it. And it might even be, if it's more helpful for you, that you have your hands on your ribs or your shoulders or your head. And you just think, okay, this upper part of my body can move, but below the waist, I'm staying quite steady. And then here, we're going to go into a forward bend. So you're going to let your front knee bend, and you're going to fold forwards over that front leg. You can rest on the front leg, And you can go further forwards, letting your chest come close to your thigh, that front knee's bent, you let your head go and see how that feels. Good. To come into that forward bend with one foot stepped forwards. Make sure your back ankle, your back heel is still rooted into the ground. And have a breath or two there, just trying to let your upper body soften as much as possible and flow. Sinking down into your heels. And then we'll come back up on an out breath, down into the heels, come back up. Have a little shake out. We're going to do the same thing with the other foot stepped forwards. So come back to feet being side to side, step your left foot forwards. And then a little bit of shifting your weight forwards and back. So again, in all of this, we're trying to let our awareness drop down out of our heads, down into our pelvis, down into our feet and our legs. So that eventually we can settle in this place where we feel steady. We've got distance sideways, forwards and back and sideways between our feet. We can feel steady, I suppose like a mountain here. Maybe, yes, hands on the pelvis. So everything downwards from here is heavy, planted. Can we feel light above the waist? Can we swing the arms? The rib cage moves, the shoulders move, the head moves. We could try with our hands on our ribs or our shoulders. So can we get this sort of feeling of lightness and mobility from the waist up? And this heavy sort of mountain type feeling from the waist down. And when you're ready, you're going to take this forwards. So bending the front knee, resting down onto that front thigh with your elbow, with your forearms, maybe with your chest, letting your head go. Have a few breaths going forwards. Again, this feeling of being rooted through the heels, but soft and released through the body, the arms, the shoulders, the head, as much as possible. Good, that's it. And then when you come up, going down into your heels to roll back up and have a little shake out. So we're going to do one last sequence in standing. We're going to come out of standing and then we'll come back into standing, which takes this movement a bit further. And I think I'll just show you because there's a few more elements to it. I'll just show you very quickly. So our starting point will be here with our front knee bent, and we're going to come into a little back arch here in this position. So bringing our gaze up. Then from here, you're going to fold forwards like we just did. And then from there, you're going to do this, this delightful one where we come down into the sprint position. And then we'll reverse it to come back here into the forward bend. And at this point, I just want you to imagine bringing all your weight into your front foot. So you might let your back heel come up, but it's not, the whole of the back foot's not going to come up yet. We will come back to that later on. So feet side to side, step your right foot forwards. And just, yeah, anything you want to do to settle here. So again, we want to have that sideways space, that forwards and back space, so we feel quite steady and mountain-like. And we're bending the front knee, but still feeling anchored into that back foot. And then just like we did with the other back arch, it's about bringing our gaze up and maybe feeling that sort of opening through the front of the chest. The arms can come up. Want to keep making sure the lower back feels happy. Maybe we feel the upper back responding to the gaze coming up. Good. And then from here, so back leg straight, front knees bent. And then from here, as you exhale, start to fold forwards. So come to rest on that bent front thigh. And then bring your arms down, bring your head down. And then you're going to see what it's like to start bending the back knee. So how does it feel to come down? You're bending the back knee as well as the front knee. You're coming down into that little sort of sprint position. See how that feels. It's quite, if your back knee comes onto the floor, it's quite challenging for that, the toes of that back foot. And then reverse the movement. So from that sprint position, come back towards your forward bend. But at this point, just pause for a breath or two and imagine Got your fingertips on the floor, you've got your front foot on the floor. Imagine taking your back foot off the floor. It might be that your back heel's off the floor. Imagine the front knee's quite bent, maybe Sarah more bent. This is Sarah. That's it, Sarah and Brighton. Good. That's it. So if we're going to imagine taking the back foot off the floor, we need to feel our weight in the front foot. And then sink into both feet and come back up into standing. And don't worry if it doesn't feel that easy to imagine taking all of your weight into your front foot. That's why I thought we'd start by imagining it. So come back up, step your other foot forwards. So it's going to be your left foot stepped forwards now. So we've got this position where the back leg is straight, the front knee is bent. And again, we feel quite steady and planted, ideally. And then what's it like? We've got a hand on our belly, a hand on our chest. Maybe one arm comes up, we let our gaze come up. We let the front of the body open. Front knees bent, back legs straight. We have a breath or two here. And then from here, as you exhale, start to fold forwards. Come to rest on your front leg thigh. Come to fold forwards more over your front leg. So it is quite helpful. You okay there, Marie? Press your space bar because I can't hear you. Oh. And then go down, that's it. From your forward bend, start to bend your knees down into. So from your forward bend, bending your knees down into your sprint position. And then from your sprint position, reversing the movement. So you come back into your forward bend. And in your forward bend, make sure your front knee is bent, because that's going to help you with this feeling of imagining taking all of your weight into your front foot. Yeah? It's quite hard to imagine taking the back foot off the floor if the front knee is not bent. Marie, you could send me a message if you can't get your sound to work.
Yeah, basically it's all just down in thumbnails at the side for some reason. I can't get.
What view are you on? Are you on
Well, I was on speaker view, which was the right one, wasn't it?
Yes.
But,
so you should be, if you go to view in the top right hand corner.
Yeah, no, it's not quite as easy as that actually. I might come out and go in again, Cara. It's something.
Yes, I think that might be a good idea.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Everyone, come out and have a shakeout. And we're going to now make our way down through a forward bend, through dog pose, through plank, into child pose. Have a little breather and do some things on hands and knees. So just come to the back of your mat and take a moment to settle in standing at the back of your mat, because we've done quite a lot of things in standing. So just come back to settling in standing, feeling your feet on the floor, maybe closing your eyes, shifting your weight from side to side. Letting a breath come in, letting a breath leave you. And then when you're ready, you're going to move through a forward bend, down towards the ground, and see how that forward bend feels now. We've done these other forward bends where we've got one foot stepped forward. So how does it feel to come back into a forward bend with feet side by side? Very nice. Let your head go. And when you're ready, then walking your hands forwards into dog pose. And see when you get to a good distance, a good length for dog pose, and stay there for a few breaths. So that's nice. Bright and Sarah, you could probably go a bit longer in your dog pose. Yeah, that's it. Yes, yes, I think that looks nice in your upper back. Good. And we will be doing some more dog pose. So if it doesn't feel amazing, don't worry. And then what I'd like you to do, and you probably need to then walk your hands a little bit further forwards, maybe not you, Marie, because you often do quite a long dog. Walk your hands a little bit further forward so you can then shift your shoulders forwards over your wrists and come into plank pose and see how that feels. And you don't need to stay there long unless you're feeling very energetic today. That's it. I wonder, Francis, whether your hands were too far forwards. I'm not sure. It depends how it feels. It looks a very nice plank, but if it's feeling more effortful in the arms, good. And from that plank, you're going to let your knees come down and you're going to fold into child pose or kneeling, or even lying on your belly if you prefer. and just have a few quiet breaths. So letting yourself settle with the ground beneath you in a way that's comfortable. So kneeling, child, lying on your belly. Just giving the weight of your body down to the ground. Big exhalation if it's helpful. Feeling the breath come in, feeling the breath leaving you. And then we're going to come forwards on to hands and knees, but we're going to come onto a longer hands and knees. So you want to have your hands a bit further forwards than your shoulders. And you're just going to, in a very sort of easy way, without pushing it at all, you're just going to see what does it feel like to start that movement where you're letting your pelvis come forwards and your weight's coming more into your hands. So towards a very easy face-up dog. And it might be that it feels very easy and you go all the way towards face-up dog, but you don't need to just yet. So you try that out a few times, and then you're going to come into lunge. So step 1 foot forwards between your hands and just come into a lunge on one side and have a few breaths there. Just let yourself settle in lunge. You can, whatever you want to do with your hands, you could be on your flats of your hands or your fingertips or your knuckles. Just letting yourself settle, letting the weight of your pelvis drop down and letting your awareness drop into the sensations of your body. Before we do the second side of lunge, we're going to move into a dog pose. So you could either go straight from lunge or you could come onto hands and knees and then move into lunge. So whatever works better for you. So big handprints on the floor, tucking your toes under, exhale, rocking your hips up and back into dog pose. And some big exhalations in dog pose, seeing how it feels. Bending your knees as much as you like. Good. Very nice. That's it. And then when you come in your own time, you can stay as long as you like in dog, but when you come into the second side of lunge, you could go straight from dog, you could come back onto hands and knees. Yes. Good. And again, just taking that time to settle in lunge, arrive in lunge. Your back toes can be tucked under or flat. And that feeling of opening through the front of the body, particularly through the front of the back thigh, over the front of the pelvis on that side. And really feeling how lunge feels in your body today. And then again, after this second side of lunge, I think another dog pose would be nice, and then folding into child pose. So again, you could go straight from lunge into your dog pose or from hands and knees. And any little adjustments you need to make, absolutely fine. Good. Very nice. That's it. So a bit of a lengthen out in dog. And then a bit of folding down into child pose or kneeling. And from child pose or kneeling, well, if you're kneeling, you can stay in kneeling. And from child pose, you're going to come into kneeling. And if you don't like sitting over your heels, you can be in up kneeling, just let your bottom come up. But if you're comfy sitting over your heels, just come and give your hands a shake out. And you can also do that one exactly where you bring the backs of your hands together and give the hands a little bit of a wiggle from side to side. So we're going to come onto hands and knees and settle on hands and knees. And we can start with a little bit of tail wagging. So on hands and knees, bringing your awareness to your pelvis. Imagining you have a tail. It's a dog's tail. You're letting that tail wag from side to side. If it's a fish's tail, it's swishing from side to side. And yeah, so the side to side movement of the pelvis. And these movements are so good for releasing the lower back, and we can alternate with some cat movements. So some rounding up and some dipping. So we're really thinking about the center of ourselves now. So how does it feel to let the spine dip towards the floor, let the spine round up towards the ceiling, and also add in, again, a bit more wagging of our tail, wagging our pelvis, moving our pelvis from side to side. So we get these sensations of moving around the center of ourselves. Good. So just a little bit more, whatever you feel like doing in terms of cat and tail wagging. And we're going to come back to some more face-up dogs. So it might be nice again just to sit back into kneeling, give your hands another shake out, and maybe bring the backs of your hands together again. So first of all, I thought we could just revisit what we did to start with. So and just compare whether anything has changed a little bit. So if we're in this long hands and knees, after doing lunge, after doing these cat movements, after doing this tail wagging, how does it feel to start to just rock our pelvis forwards? Try to let the pelvis hang. And all the time we're noticing, what does the lower back feel like? And then if it would help us to use our cat movements to go into face-up dog and be a bit more comfortable, we can. So we can tuck our toes under, round the back to the ceiling, rock the hips back over the heels, and then travel forwards, rounding the back. So we're using that rounded up cat to come all the way forwards into face-up dog. Then we let the pelvis go, untuck the toes. And we can repeat that once or twice more. So going back, rounding the back, tucking the toes under, then traveling forwards, rounding the back, all the way into face-up dog. And again, whenever you've done enough face-up dog, you might want to do another one or two, then folding back into child pose. And I can have a look on you. Yes, so when you're in your face-up dog, it looks really nice. Think about the shoulders dropping down away from your ears. Your gaze does come up a little bit, but not too much. Yeah, so you want to feel that the back of the neck doesn't get too scrunched up, which is possible in this. And the shoulders stay well down away from the ears. Good. So yes, give yourself a little bit of a breather now in child pose or kneeling or lying on your belly, because we're going to make our way back up into standing. So before we come up off the ground, wherever you are, child pose, kneeling, lying on your belly. If you're in kneeling, it's really nice to rest the backs of your hands on your thighs. Let the palms soften, let the shoulders drop. And gather your attention into your breathing and feel a couple of cycles of breath moving through you. So noticing how your body expands, widens as the breath comes in. And as the breath leaves you, it's that opportunity to soften, particularly around the shoulders, the arms, and to give your weight to the floor. And maybe one more cycle of breath. So we're going to be coming back into dog pose and then a forward bend and into standing. But I thought it might be quite good to have a little play around with your one-legged dog poses, because we're going to be coming and doing some more standing balances and going a little bit further with them. So in dog pose, it's that really good opportunity to feel how it is to have one foot off the floor, but we've still got two hands on the floor. So you can come onto hands and knees when you're ready. Tuck your toes under. You can exhale, rock your hips back over your heels, pick your knees up off the floor. Arrive in your dog pose. So give yourself at least a couple of breaths to settle in dog. And then when you start to bring one leg up, just, there's different ways. You can lift a leg and keep the back of your pelvis quite level. And you can lift, which is usually harder work, and you can lift your leg and you can let your pelvis roll. So the pelvis sort of rolls on top of the leg that remains on the floor. That's it. And as you know, you can either keep the top leg straight or you can bend the knee. And if you bend the knee, it's when you've rolled the pelvis and the foot drops away behind you. Good. And these are ones I think to move in and out of, not ones to stay in for that long, as I'm sure you can probably feel. So a little bit of your one-legged dogs. And obviously one of the challenges with one-legged dog is the whole of that foot, the whole of the remaining foot may not be on the floor. So obviously when we're in a standing balance, we've got a bit more contact of the foot on the floor. When you've had enough in dog pose, you walk your hands into a forward bend. Let your head go. And then you can exhale, roll up into standing. When you're ready, let yourself arrive back in standing. So I think, like we did at the beginning of the class, just take a moment in standing to see how it feels. You can close your eyes. You can do those small movements of shifting your weight from side to side. Let your breathing settle. Just let yourself settle in standing. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And we're going to come to our swinging twist again. So just letting the arms swing, letting the hands slap onto the body, feeling the whole of ourselves in motion. So in standing, we're going to do a standing balance on its own, and then we're going to do a sequence which involves some of the movements we were doing earlier and also ends up in a balance. So we've got those sort of two opportunities to focus really in on balancing, and then to do it as more as part of a series of movements. So if we let our swing twist go, we're going to come back to this position where we've got the right foot stepped forwards and the front knee is bent. So what we're doing now is we're just coming into a balance. We're coming into another version of the Warrior 3 that we did earlier. So from here, your front knee bent, your back leg straight, you're going to bring your hands into prayer pose at your chest. And I find it really helpful if my thumbs are actually touching my breastbone. That just seems to help me feel steadier. And then from here, we're going to, with that front knee bent, start to shift our weight into the front foot. So the front knee's bent, and we peel the back foot off the floor, and the back knee's bent. So we're in this sort of funny run, sort of like cartoon running position. And then you're going to start to reach backwards with your raised heel, and start to let both knees straighten, but not lock. And also, as you reach backwards with your back heel, you tip forwards with your body. But that sort of happens anyway. So the back heel's reaching back. We're keeping our hands at our breastbone. We're letting both knees straighten but not lock. And as we reach back with the raised leg, our shoulders and our torso tip forwards. We maybe have a breath or two, or we have to come out. Good, well done. Very nice. So yes, come out, have a little shake out. So again, just really keeping your hands in prayer pose, touching your breastbone, just keeps the arms out of the way, and it's one less thing to worry about. So we'll try the other side. So the left foot stepped forwards. So the left knee's bent, the front knee's bent, the back leg straight to start with. And then starting to shift our weight forwards onto that bent front leg. Letting the back foot come off the floor, both knees are bent. And then starting to reach the back heel back. Starting to let both knees straighten but not lock. Starting to let the body tip forwards as the back leg comes up. Very lovely, everyone. Keep that contact of your hands on your breastbone. Beautiful. Really nice. And yes, do come down. Have a little shake out. And sometimes these ones are a bit challenging on the lower back when you've got that long leg lifted off the floor. So just before we come on to our sequence, come down into a forward bend. And be heavy and floppy. You could even do your sort of weeping willow arms in your forward bend if you like, to sort of keep it very sort of, so it's like you're trailing your arms around your feet, imagining you're a weeping willow, just to keep it very fluid and soft. And then pausing in the centre, letting a breath come in, sinking into your heels, rolling up into standing. Now, we're going to pretty much do, I'm going to remind you again, we're going to pretty much do the sequence we did earlier. So we're going to be coming one foot step forwards through this little standing back arch, down into the forward bend. Now, you've got a choice here. If it's helpful to come down into this sprint position, it might be helpful in terms of getting you to shift your weight onto your front foot. So we're thinking about, but you might be quite happy to do it from here. So you've got this choice. We're thinking about from here, shifting our weight onto our front foot. And just seeing where we go to. I'm thinking about half moon pose, but you may not end up there. Now, one thing, in your forward bend here, if your fingertips don't touch the ground easily, you might want to put a book under your fingertips on each side, yeah? Because it's obviously going to be a lot easier to get your back foot off the floor if you've got your fingers on the ground, yeah? So let's start with your right foot stepped forwards. And remember, the first thing we're doing is our little standing back arch. So we're going to be terribly excited about our balance, but actually what I'd like you to do first is front knee bent, back leg straight, just letting yourself open through the front of your body, bringing your gaze up. And then folding down into your forward bend. And then from your forward bend, you've got this choice. You could go down into your sprint position if that helps you to shift your weight into your front foot. So that's a possibility. And then you start to reverse that movement. And we're trying to then have all of the weight. So what we imagined earlier, bringing all of our weight into our front foot so we can bring the back leg off the ground. And that may be enough. Just that challenge of bringing the back leg off the ground may be enough. But some of you I know would like to try taking that on into half moon pose. Good. So that would mean once the back leg's off the ground, you'll then try to bring the same hand off the ground, and that hand could come to rest on the top of your pelvis. Yes, that's nice. So it could go straight, yes, straight up to the ceiling. And then you start to open your body out towards that. So good. So the pelvis is rolling to open, so it's facing forwards. Your chest is facing forwards. Good. Your arm is then reaching up. Good. I know this one's challenging, Marie, for your hips. So just go as far as good. Well done. Well done. But yes, Jan, I thought you would appreciate the challenge. Good. Come out and have a little shake out. And just be aware, because we are doing this as part of a sequence. You know, we may be a bit more wobbly, and that's fine. So let's try the other side. So you're going to step your left foot forwards. We've got the front knee bent, we've got the back leg straight. So this is when we just feel very planted from the waist down, and we do this beautiful movement of opening through the front of the body. Front knee bent, back leg straight, letting your gaze come up. Opening through the front of your body and then folding forwards. Coming into your forward bend. At that point, deciding, is it helpful to go down into your little sprint position? Does that help you to bring your weight into your front foot? And then once you've come down in that little sprint position, if you choose to do that, then we're starting to reverse it. Good. That's very nice. Bringing your weight forwards into the front foot. Good. Good. And then just see where you go to on this side. So very nice. That's it. Lovely. Lovely. Beautiful. Yes, and that opening the body. So it's the same hand, you raise the same arm as the raised leg. Very lovely. Yes, and the last thing that happens, if possible, is your gaze comes off the floor and you look forwards, but that's always the challenge. Well done. Well done. Very nice, everyone. From there, come towards the back of your mat. We're going to make our way down. What did I have here? Yes, down through a forward bend and a squat, which will be quite nice for the lower back. If you need a book or something under your heels to help you stay in a squat, then this would be the time to have one, because as I said, sometimes these poses where we lift a leg are a bit challenging for the lower back. So at the back of your mat, coming into a forward bend, and then bending your knees so you come down into a squat. And if it's fine if your heels come up, but if you want to put a cushion or a book or whatever you have to hand under your heels to help you stay there. I'm just thinking, if you have a cushion under your heels, you just want to sit on it like it's a bit of a seat. So we just want that feeling of being able to let our pelvis drop down towards the floor for a breath or two. You can take your knees apart and fold down in between your knees if that's helpful. And then from here, and it might be at this point you want to think about putting warmer things on. What we're going to do is coming into lying down, and we're going to walk forwards. So if you're going to roll forwards onto your knees from your squat, and you're going to lie down onto your belly. But you might want to, before you do that, if you're putting any warmer things on, put them on first. And then lie onto your belly, because from your belly you're going onto your back, and then you just don't need to disturb yourselves at that point. But yes. So when you're ready, if you're putting on warmer things, lie onto your belly. And it doesn't matter too much now. We're just doing a couple of very simple things here. So have your arms wherever is most comfortable. Good. And the first thing to do once you're lying on your belly is give your pelvis a bit of a wiggle. That's it, a little bit of a wiggle. And the second thing you're going to do here is exactly, Rosie, is to bend your knees, take your feet up towards the ceiling, if you like this one, and then tilt your feet from side to side. That's it. If occasionally some people don't like this in their lower back, if you don't like it, don't do it, or bring your feet a bit lower down, nearer to the floor. Just, yeah, that's it. So these movements are to help you settle a little bit more on your belly. So if you don't feel settled, then stop doing them. So you can let your feet tilt a little bit more, and whenever you want to, let your legs come down onto the ground. Just maybe have a quiet breath or two. See how it feels. See if you can feel the breath coming into the back of your body. So can you feel your back ribs widening as you breathe in? And then just that feeling of softening and releasing tension as you exhale. And from your belly, you're going to roll over onto your back. You'll probably be very relieved to hear. So you're going to roll onto your back. It's quite nice to just do it, disturbing yourself as little as possible. If you're feeling that you've cooled down, of course, put on something warmer now. We're going to do a few movements on our backs. If you think you can do them under a blanket, that's fine. Otherwise, settling on your back. So just when you arrive on your back, just sort of seeing, how do you feel? And sometimes it's just really nice to be on your back. The first thing I would suggest is a bit of rolling your head, easing your head to the right and to the left. And from easing your head to the right and to the left, finding a comfortable place to settle your head down. And notice how the back of your neck feels. If the back of your neck feels a bit tight, you can always pick up your head in your hands and lengthen out the back of your neck, and then place your head back down onto the ground. If your legs are long, now bend your knees and stand your feet on the floor, so that you can start to tilt your knees to the right and to the left. That's it. Good. And see how this movement feels. So this is one of those very familiar, easy movements. Knees bent, feet standing on the floor, tilting the knees from side to side. And then settle in the center. And just see, how does it feel to tilt your pelvis up and down a little bit? So how does it feel to tilt your pelvis towards your head and away from your head? So this is this movement when we tip the pelvis towards our head, the lower back flattens out. When we tilt our pelvis away from our head, our lower back arches a little bit. And what I'd like you to do is, when you tip the pelvis towards your head, so your tailbone comes off the floor, you could then just a couple of times very easily take that on into bridge pose, just very easy bridge pose to see how it feels. And then Sally, especially for you, I thought we would finish with our bridge pose sequence, which is really as much about breathing as it is about movement. So it's a lovely thing to finish with. So, but first of all, just try out a couple of bridge poses, very easy, see how they feel. And also, I think it's probably helpful to sort of check, have you got your feet in the right place? So Sarah, Bright and Sarah, I'm slightly wondering whether your feet need to be closer into your bottom, but Siobhan, I can't see yours. You two, you've got long legs. I always have this question about you. So, yeah, so check that you've got your feet in a good position for bridge pose. And then the other thing, once your pelvis is down on the ground, in this sequence, we take the arms up to rest on the floor either side of your head. So I'd like you just to try that out. Make sure you've got the space in your room. You've not got obstacles in the way. And also, where's a comfortable place to take your arms? Yeah, so you might want to take them quite wide because you want the whole of the arms to rest down. So just try that out. And then bring your hands back so they're on your belly. And I'm going to then talk you through this sequence. So remember, this is really as much about our breathing as the movement. And we move on our out breath. So you start off with your hands on your belly and this feeling of gathering the awareness into the belly, sometimes known as the hara, as the center of ourselves. So you feel a breath come in, and then as you exhale, you're going to bring your arms up to rest on the floor, either side of your head. So in that place they just were. And then when your arms are there, let a breath come in and feel really wide in the chest. And then your next exhalation, you go down into your footprints. You let your pelvis come up into bridge. Good. Once you're in bridge pose, then again, you let a breath come in and you feel really wide in your rib cage. And then the next exhalation, you lower your spine back onto the floor, vertebrae by vertebrae. As the back of your pelvis touches the ground, you receive an inhalation and you feel very wide across the back of your pelvis. And then as you exhale, you bring your hands back to your belly. So receive an inhalation with your hands on your belly and your pelvis on the ground, Sarah, I think, if it's still up. That's it. So receive an inhalation, hands on the belly. Then as you exhale, your arms come up to rest on the floor, either side of your head, but take them wide. Receive an in-breath. At this point, your pelvis should be on the ground. Receive an in-breath just with the arms up. And then on the next out breath, you go down into your feet and you come up into bridge pose. Then in bridge pose, you receive an inhalation and you feel wide in your ribs. And then as you exhale, you lower your spine back onto the floor. You receive an inhalation with your pelvis on the ground. And then you exhale to bring your hands back to your belly. We're going to do that one more time. So I will talk you through, but if you think you know it yourself, you can do it on your own. So receiving an in-breath with your hands on your belly. Exhaling, taking your arms up to rest on the floor, either side of your head. Receive an inhalation with the arms on the floor. And then as you exhale down into your footprints, come up into bridge pose. Receive an inhalation in bridge pose. And then as you exhale, vertebrae by vertebrae, bringing your spine back down onto the ground. You receive an inhalation as your pelvis touches the ground. And then as you exhale, you bring your hands back to your belly. And then from here, well, let's see, if you want to go through that once more, you can do. Otherwise, on your own. Otherwise, folding your knees into your chest and just holding around your knees. Doing a little bit of rocking from side to side. Good. So I always find as soon as I've folded my knees into my chest, I then want to take them up to the ceiling and give my, well, not my knees, my legs up to the ceiling and give my legs a shake out. So you could also do that. Shake that, so it'll shake out for legs. Good. And then we're going to be settling down, just finishing lying down, a little bit of quiet breathing. If there's any movements, further movements you feel would be helpful, then please, yeah, if anything, if you feel drawn to do anything, please do it. Yes, blankets, socks, warm things now. Settling down onto your back. So it could be with your knees bent, it could be with your legs long. Letting yourself settle down onto the ground. You might want to let your head roll a little bit from side to side. You might want to have a sighing breath or two. Just settling quietly, letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. Letting your body rest on the ground. Just letting yourself be. So in a moment, I'm going to ring the singing bowl, but just stay lying quietly. I'm going to ring it 3 times, so you don't need to think about moving or finishing until we reach the end of those 3 sounds. So thank you, everyone. Some of you look like I think my internet connection might be a bit unstable.